Hello and welcome to this video. In this video, you will learn about Python functions. You will learn how to create a function and also how to call or activate a function. What are functions? In Python, functions are pieces of code or code blocks that are used to do something. Basically, they are a group of related statements that are used to perform a specific task. Functions are useful. They help break your programs into smaller and modular chunks so that as your program grows larger and larger, the functions makes the programs more organized and easier to manage. Functions avoids repetition and makes it possible for you to reuse your code. So once you've created a function, you can reuse it as many times as you want. Once you've created a function, the function does not do nothing until you activate or call the function. So the process of activating a function is also referred to as executing or running a function. And you do that by calling the function with its name. So whatever name you've called your function, if you want to activate or execute it, you need to call it by its name. When you create functions, you can have them have parameters, which are variables. So you can create a function and then passing variables, which are known as parameters. And also when you are calling or executing the functions, you have to call it and supply arguments. The arguments are referred to as values. Functions can return data as a result. There are several types of functions. There are built-in functions and there are also user-defined function. An example of a built-in function is the print function, which you can use to print stuff or data on the screen. And then you have your own custom, which are user-created custom. They're also referred to as custom functions. The syntax for creating a function is fairly straightforward. You use the keyword def, which means you're trying to define a function, followed by the name of the function, and then you have the parentheses and then the colon. The colon is very important because that creates an indentation for the function. So anything underneath the indentation here, which is created by this colon, anything here is called the function body. So when you execute or call the function, this is the part of the code that will execute. I have created a new notebook, and inside the notebook I've added a block of code. Here I'm creating a new function called sum. So you create a function by using the keyword def space. You give the function a name, and inside the parentheses you can pass in parameters if you want to. Parameters are like variables. So you can see here I've passed in two parameters, x and y. You can also leave the parentheses blank without any parameters. So after you define the function, you add the colon. The colon creates this indentation level here. And then this is the code that will be executed when this particular function is called. So when you create a function, the function does nothing until you call or activate the function. So here I'm calling the function, which is called sum, and inside the parentheses I'm passing in two values. The first value will be for the variable x, and the second value will be for the variable y. So when you pass in values inside, when you're calling a function, they are known as arguments. So 4 and 5 here are called arguments, while x and y inside the parentheses are known as parameters. So let me run this function. I'll click run, and you can see here it has returned a value of 9 because I've passed in two arguments, 4 and 5, which will then execute what this function says. It will print out the value of x plus y. In the example function we created, we use parameter and also argument. I just want to explain again the difference between the parameter and the argument. The parameter is the variable that is defined inside the function's parentheses, while the argument is the actual value you pass or give to the function when the function is called. What is the default parameter value? This is the value that a function uses when the function is called without passing any value to the function. Only parameters at the end of a parameter list can have a default value, as values are assigned by their position. In the second cell here, I've created a variable called student_names, and inside the parentheses I have specified a default parameter value. Alright, so this is the value that the function is going to use if I call the function without passing it any value. So the name inside the parentheses is names. This is going to be the variable, and the value is going to be blue line. So when I call the function, this is what is going to happen. It's going to print this text, hello, plus whatever value that this variable names has. So here I'm calling the function with and without arguments. The first one here, I'm calling the function without passing any value to it. So if I call it now, this should print the default parameter value, which is blue line. It should say hello blue line. Here I'm calling it and I'm passing it a value of John. So now the name variable will now have the value of John, and this I'm calling here again and giving it a different value. So let me run that, and then you can see it says hello blue line, which is the default value because I call the function without giving it any value or argument. I call the function again, give it a value of John. It says hello John. Call it again and give it a value of Jane, and it says hello Jane. So it basically executes the code in the body of the function, which is this print statement here. So whatever value the variable names has, it will say hello to the value of that names variable.